Hi guys, my name is Vaibhav Nivargi and I'm the technical founder and chief architect at ClearStory Data. We are at the very first Spark Summit in San Francisco, which has been an outstanding success so far. Crowded rooms, jam-packed and very, very busy. Hopefully a sign of things to come. I'm joined here by Reynold, who's one of the co-founders at Databricks and was a PhD student at Berkeley not too long ago.
Not too long ago, about a couple months ago.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah. So I'm Reynold, just let me introduce myself again. I'm one of the co-founders of Databricks, the company behind Apache Spark. And not too long ago, I was actually a PhD student at the UC Berkeley AMP Lab, where Spark and Shark and a lot of the other systems are developed it. I am one of the most active Apache Spark committers and also the main author behind Shark. ClearStory is one of the earliest adopters of Spark,
yes,
the Spark stack. And how are you using Spark? I'm very curious.
That's a great question. So at ClearStory, one of the unique things that we do is what we call data harmonization. So that lets users of different skill sets bring together data that's internal as well as external to the organization and converge it on the fly. So naturally, you can imagine a processing system like Spark and Shark help us in enabling that for business users. So the harmonization engine is something that's driven through our application where users visualize data, analyze data, and converge it on the fly. And the harmonization engine drives that analysis in terms of Spark and Shark queries.
OK. So what is the reason that you are actually using this beyond sort of in-memory data processing?
Right. So when I started the company, coming from my background working in MPP databases at Astrodata, I knew that the problem that we were trying to tackle at ClearStory was a slightly higher level. And we wanted to enable more degrees of freedom for users to work with data, and that data could be internal as well as external to the organization. So it wasn't entirely just about SQL or about in-memory processing. It was also about the framework and the capabilities and the computation power that Spark and Shark have. And honestly, if it weren't for Spark, we would have very likely built a system like this ourselves. So we were one of the early adopters. I learned about Spark through the Mesos project to begin with. And then we realized that the computing primitives and the Scala language and the Shark Hive SQL support were something that really gave us the right primitives to build this on top of Spark and Shark and focus on our core competence, which is data harmonization.
So among the benefits of Spark that you mentioned, what are the most compelling aspects that you find?
So Spark has this notion of resilient distributed data sets, which are these in-memory units of data which can span across multiple machines in a cluster. So as a computing unit of data, that is really promising for the kinds of workloads we see at ClearStory. So when you have multiple sources of data being converged on the fly, and multiple users working with these data sets dynamically without any modeling involved, you have almost a DAG of data operators and data sets themselves, and different users are accessing that at different points. So RDDs and the way they can evolve, where they maintain lineage of operations and you can rederive them, that construct fits really well with the way we operate on data at ClearStory. And that is something that also plays very nicely with the way we enable collaboration with data. So if you think about how different users might join an analysis at different points, they almost naturally fit the model of an RDD. So if I have an analysis and I'm working with 2 or 3 data sets and I invite you into the story, a key takeaway might be something that is materialized as an RDD. That might be cached, so we can have rapid access to it, and you don't have to wait a long time, which traditionally happens with dashboards and BI tools. So that flexibility is really, really crucial for us.
OK, so this is more about the general DAG of execution, so it's the general computation framework, as well as the in-memory caching capability.
Right. Because there's a lot of flexibility that traditional tools did not have. There was a very linear process to begin with. You had a question, you knew where the data is coming from, and somebody gave you a dashboard and you looked at it. But now you can have different users in the organization have different agendas. Yeah. Some might be worrying about their top line, others might be worrying about their expenses, some might be worrying about competition, marketing campaigns, sales, inventory, supply chain. And for all of these, there are way too many degrees of freedom to encode in a straight line without it being really lossy. So that's where RDDs and how they evolve over time is something that makes Spark extremely promising. You must be really excited personally doing this with Ian and Matei, formalizing the Spark and Shark project coming from AMP Lab. So what is it that personally excites you about the company and about the prospects of Spark and Shark as in terms of the near-term and longer-term roadmap?
I think in the near term, it's definitely very exciting to be able to work with different partners and actually commercialize Spark, putting a lot of momentum behind the projects and further pushing the project. But I think I'm mostly interested in the longer term, and I'm mostly excited by actually the longer term, the sheer amount of opportunities that are available in the big data space. Like big data systems are still very hard to use, and we're hoping to change that with Spark and Shark and all the other systems we're building.
Awesome. Okay. In terms of Spark and Shark and other companies who are using this and the ecosystem that's budding right now, what kind of usage patterns are you seeing?
So so Spark is still pretty nascent compared with Hadoop MapReduce, and but in the past of a year to a half a year time span, we have seen a lot of use cases being reported. And starting from sort of very advanced analytics, like doing machine learning, but now sort of Spark is moving on more into, say, OLAP kind of style workflow, and even into ETL, which is more sort of the turf of Hadoop MapReduce. And as the talk this morning given by Tim Tooley, there was a talk on Yahoo is hoping to actually replace some of the ETL workload with Spark. And I think that in part is very exciting. So being able to cover end-to-end of the entire data pipeline is probably one of the most exciting and attractive feature of Spark.